You seem entirely too relaxed, darling. I wonder what it would take to change that.
I didn't know who he was when I laughed at him. That was my first mistake. The gallery opening had been suffocating too many people pretending to understand abstract art. Too much champagne I couldn't afford to drink on an empty stomach. I'd only come because my roommate Marina begged me to keep her company while she networked. She was the artist. I was just the girl who worked at the flower shop down the street, wearing a borrowed dress that didn't quite fit. I'd stepped outside onto the terrace for air when I saw him. He stood alone near the marble railing, perfectly still in an expensive black suit that looked like it had been tailored to his exact measurements. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and an expression so cold and distant it made him look like one of the sculptures inside. I should have left him alone, but something about the way he stood there untouchable, unreachable made me feel bold in a way I never usually was. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," I said, moving closer. He turned his head slowly, his dark eyes finding mine. They were the kind of eyes that saw too much, that calculated, that remembered. "I would," he said simply. His voice was low, controlled, with an accent I couldn't quite place. It should have warned me off. Everything about him screamed danger. The sharp cut of his suit, the way he held himself like violence was always an option, the cold assessment in his gaze. But I'd had just enough champagne to feel brave. "Then why come at all?" I asked, leaning against the railing beside him. "Not too close, just close enough to be friendly." "Obligation. That's a terrible reason to do anything." The corner of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile. Just an acknowledgement that I'd said something. "And you?" he asked. "Why are you here?" "Same reason, actually. My roommate's one of the artists. I'm moral support. You don't look like moral support." I blinked. What do I look like? His eyes moved over me slowly, deliberately. Not leering. Assessing. Like I was a puzzle he was deciding whether to solve. "Lost," he said finally. The word hit harder than it should have. Because he was right. I was lost. 23 years old, working a job that barely covered rent, watching everyone around me find their purpose while I drifted. "Well," I said, forcing lightness into my voice. "That's depressing. Truth often is." I laughed then, not because it was funny, but because his seriousness felt so out of place at a party. He looked at me like I'd done something unexpected. "You're very intense, you know that," I said, still smiling. "Do you ever just relax?" Something changed in his expression. A subtle shift, like I'd crossed a line I didn't know existed. "You should go back inside," he said quietly. "Why?" "Because you don't belong out here with me." It should have sounded arrogant. Instead, it sounded like a warning, but I didn't take it. "That's dramatic," I said, laughing again. I reached out without thinking and touched his arm lightly, just a playful tap. "You're not that scary." His hand moved so fast I barely saw it. His fingers wrapped around my wrist, firm but not painful, stopping my hand before I could pull it back. "If you tease me like that again," he said, his voice dropping to something dark and dangerous, "you won't like what happens." My breath caught. His grip wasn't hurting me, but I couldn't move. His eyes held mine, and for the first time I felt it, the real weight of who he was. Something predatory. Something controlled, but barely. I wasn't teasing," I whispered. "Yes," he said softly. "You were." He released me and stepped back, his expression smoothing into that cold mask again, like nothing had happened. "Go inside, Piccola. Forget this conversation." I stumbled backward, my heart pounding. When I finally turned and walked away, I felt his eyes on me the entire time. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. I didn't tell Marina what happened. Partly because I didn't know how to explain it, and partly because I was embarrassed. I'd acted like an idiot, touching a stranger like we were friends, laughing at him like he was harmless. The look in his eyes when he grabbed my wrist kept replaying in my mind. "You won't like what happens." I threw myself into work the next day, arranging bouquets at the shop and trying not to think about dark eyes and dangerous warnings. It almost worked. Until he walked in. I was in the back room trimming stems when I heard the bell above the door chime. My coworker Sarah called out a cheerful greeting, and I heard a low voice respond. That voice? I froze, scissors in hand, my heart suddenly racing. It couldn't be him. Why would he come here? Emma, Sarah called. Customer wants to talk to you. I set down the scissors carefully, wiped my hands on my apron, and walked out front. He stood near the counter, looking completely out of place among the pastel roses and sunflowers. He wore a different suit today, charcoal gray, but the effect was the same. Dangerous. Controlled. Too expensive for this neighborhood. When he saw me, something flickered in his expression. You, I breathed. Miss Hartley, he said, as if we were strangers being introduced for the first time. How did he know my last name? Sarah looked between us, confused. You two know each other? We met briefly, he said smoothly, at an event. Oh! Sarah smiled. Small world. He turned his attention to her. I need an arrangement delivered. Something elegant. White roses, calla lilies. No filler. Sure. When do you need it by? Today. Within the hour. Sarah's smile faltered. That's pretty short notice. I'll pay double. She glanced at me, and I nodded numbly. We needed the money. Okay, Sarah said. Emma can put it together. Where's it going? He pulled out a business card and set it on the counter. I caught a glimpse of embossed lettering before Sarah picked it up. Her face went pale. Is there a problem? He asked, his tone dangerously polite. No, Mr. Moretti. No problem at all. Moretti. The name hit me like cold water. Even I knew that name. Everyone in the city did. The Moretti family controlled half the businesses downtown, and the other half paid them protection money. They were organized crime. Mafia. And I'd touched him, laughed at him, told him he wasn't scary. Oh God. He looked at me, and I saw the faintest hint of amusement in his eyes. He knew exactly what I was thinking. I'll have it ready, I managed to say. Good. He started toward the door, then paused. Make sure you deliver it personally, Miss Hartley. Then he was gone. Sarah turned to me, eyes wide. Do you know who that was? Now I do, I whispered. Emma, you can't deliver to him. Send Marcus, or I'll do it. He specifically asked for me. That's what I'm worried about. She gripped my arm. The Morettis don't just buy flowers, Em. There are stories. People who cross them disappear. Businesses that don't cooperate burn down. I'm not crossing him. I'm delivering flowers. But my hands shook as I built the arrangement. White roses for secrecy, calla lilies for dangerous beauty. I knew the language of flowers. Every arrangement told a story. This one felt like a warning. The address led me to a restaurant I'd passed 100 times but never entered, the kind of place with no prices on the menu and a waiting list months long. Stella note. I parked my beat-up Honda in the service alley and carried the arrangement to the back entrance, my heart hammering. A man in a black suit stopped me immediately. Delivery for Mr. Olney. Moretti, I said, proud that my voice didn't shake. He spoke into a radio, listened, then opened the door. Inside, the restaurant was beautiful, all warm lighting and rich wood and the smell of expensive wine. But it was empty. Completely empty, except for one table near the back. He sat there alone, a glass of red wine in front of him, papers spread across the white tablecloth. When he saw me, he set down his pen. Miss Hartley, come. It wasn't a request. I walked forward, my shoes too loud on the marble floor, and set the arrangement on the edge of his table. It's beautiful, he said, examining it. You have talent. Thank you. Sit. I hesitated. I should get back. Sit, Picula. That word again. I didn't know what it meant, but the way he said it made something warm unfurl in my chest. I sat. He poured wine into a second glass and pushed it toward me. I don't drink on the job, I said. You're not on the job anymore. You delivered the flowers. Now you're having lunch with me. I didn't agree to lunch. No, he said calmly. You agreed the moment you touched me last night. My face burned. I didn't mean, I know what you meant. He leaned back, studying me. You thought I was harmless, just another bored rich man at a party. I didn't. Don't lie to me, Emma. The sound of my first name in his voice made me shiver. Why am I here? I asked quietly. Because you interest me. Why? You laughed at me, he said simply. No one laughs at me. Maybe they should. His expression shifted, something dark and pleased crossing his face. There it is again, that fearlessness. I'm terrified, I admitted. I know, but you're still here. A man appeared from the kitchen carrying 2 plates pasta that smelled incredible, garnished with fresh herbs and shaved parmesan. He set them down without a word and disappeared. Eat, Moretti said. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. I picked up my fork because arguing felt dangerous. The pasta was perfect rich and buttery and completely wasted on my nervous stomach. What do you want from me? I asked. He took a slow sip of wine. I haven't decided yet. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. We ate in silence for several minutes. I snuck glances at him, trying to understand what I'd stumbled into. He looked relaxed, but I could sense the coiled tension beneath, like a predator pretending to sleep. You should stay away from me, he said finally.
You're welcome.
I looked up, startled. Then why invite me here? Because I wanted to see if you would come. And? His dark eyes met mine. You did, which means you're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. The corner of his mouth moved again, almost a smile. Your roommate? He said. Marina Chen. She owes someone money. My blood went cold. What? $50,000 to a man named Viktor Popov. He's not patient, and he's not kind. How do you know that? I know everything that happens in this city, Piccola. Why are you telling me this? He set down his fork carefully, because Victor will come to collect soon, and when he does, Marina won't be able to pay. Neither will you. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'd known Marina was struggling, but I didn't know it was that bad. What do? I whispered. You let me handle it. Why would you do that? He stood, moving around the table until he was beside me. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His touch was gentle, controlled, terrifying. Because, he said softly, if anyone is going to ruin you, Piccola, it's going to be me. Then he stepped back and returned to his seat. Finish your lunch. My driver will take you home. I should have refused, should have run. But I finished every bite. Marina was pacing when I got home. Where have you been? She demanded. You were supposed to be back an hour ago. I had a delivery. It took longer than expected. Well, we have a problem. She ran her hands through her hair. Victor's guys came by. They want the money by Friday, or... She stopped, her face crumpling. Emma, I'm so sorry. I didn't think... I know, I said quietly. You know. Know what? About Victor. About the debt. She froze. How? I couldn't tell her about Moretti. Not yet. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. There's nothing to figure out. I don't have $50,000. I don't even have $5,000, she laughed bitterly. I'm so stupid. I thought the art would sell. I thought I'd make it back before. Marina. Stop. We're going to lose the apartment. And Victor, Emma, he's dangerous. I've heard stories. I said stop. She looked at me, startled by the firmness in my voice. It's going to be okay, I said. I didn't know if I believed it, but I needed her to. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about dark eyes and dangerous promises. If anyone is going to ruin you, it's going to be me. What did that mean? My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number, I answered without thinking. Hello? You're awake. Moretti's voice, low and intimate in the darkness. How did you get my number? I told you I know everything. I should have hung up. Instead, I whispered, "Why are you calling?" Because I wanted to hear your voice. My breath caught. "Emma," he said, and the way he said my name felt like a touch. "Victor's men will come back tomorrow. Don't answer the door." "How do you—" "Don't ask questions you don't want answered. Just trust me." "I don't trust you." "Smart girl." A pause. "But you will." He hung up. I stared at my phone, my heart racing. What had I gotten myself into? Victor's men didn't come back the next day, or the day after that. Marina was confused but relieved. "Maybe they forgot?" she said hopefully. I knew better. On Thursday, a package arrived at the flower shop. No return address. Inside was a phone expensive, new with a single contact saved, DM. I stared at it for a long time before it rang. "Use this phone from now on," Moretti said without preamble. "Your old number isn't secure." "What did you do?" I asked. "Victor's debt has been transferred." "Transferred? To who?" "To me." "No. You bought Marina's debt?" "Yes." "Why would you do that?" "Because now she owes me instead of him. And I'm significantly more patient." I sank into the chair behind the counter. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing she can give me." His voice dropped. "But you can?" My hands started shaking. "I don't have any money." "I don't want your money, Piccola." "Then what?" Silence stretched between us, heavy and charged. "Dinner," he said finally. "Tomorrow night. My home." "That's it? Dinner? That's all I'm asking for now. For now." The words hung unspoken between us. "And if I say no?" "Then Marina still owes me $50,000. It wasn't really a choice. We both knew it. "One dinner," I said. "One dinner," he agreed, but I heard the promise underneath. One dinner would become two. Two would become more. He was pulling me in slowly, deliberately, like a spider with silk, and I was letting him. Friday evening, a car arrived for me. Not a regular car, a sleek black Mercedes with a driver who opened the door without speaking. Marina watched from the window as I climbed in. "Where are you going?" she'd asked earlier. "Just meeting someone." "Who?" "A friend." The lie tasted bitter. The drive took 30 minutes, leaving the city behind for sprawling estates and guarded gates. We turned into a property surrounded by high walls, passing through security checkpoints that would have intimidated a military base. The mansion was stunning. Modern architecture softened by warm lighting and careful landscaping, beautiful and intimidating in equal measure. Just like him, Moretti waited at the entrance, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. More casual than I'd ever seen him, but no less dangerous. "Emma," he said, and offered his hand. I took it because refusing felt impossible. His fingers closed around mine, warm and strong, and he led me inside. The interior was elegant, expensive art on the walls, furniture that looked custom-made, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the grounds. But it felt empty somehow. Like a showroom instead of a home. "You live here alone?" I asked. "Yes, it's beautiful." "It's a cage," he said simply, "but a comfortable one." He led me to a dining room where the table was set for two. Candles already lit, wine already poured. "Sit," he said. This time, I did without arguing. Dinner appeared in courses each more exquisite than the last. We ate mostly in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt almost peaceful. "Why me?" I asked finally. "You could have anyone. Why choose some random girl from a flower shop?" He set down his fork and looked at me with those two knowing eyes. "Because you looked at me and saw a man," he said. "Not a monster, not a name, just a man standing alone at a party. I didn't know who you were." "Exactly." He leaned back. "Do you know how rare that is for me? How exhausting it is to have everyone fear you or want something from you. So I'm what? A novelty? No, Piccola, you're a risk. I don't understand. You make me want things I shouldn't want. Feel things I shouldn't feel. His jaw tightened. You're a weakness I can't afford. Then let me go. I can't do that either. The truth of it hung between us, heavy and undeniable. He stood and held out his hand. Come, I want to show you something. I followed him through the house to a set of glass doors leading to the garden. Outside, string lights created a canopy of stars above a stone pathway lined with flowers, white roses, hundreds of them. You did this? I whispered. I had it done. After you left the restaurant, I couldn't stop thinking about your arrangement. How you built something beautiful from simple elements. He stepped closer. You do that, Emma. Make beautiful things in a world that doesn't deserve them. I just arrange flowers. No. You create meaning. He reached out and touched my cheek, his thumb brushing across my skin, and you looked at a monster and smiled. You're not a monster, I said softly. His expression darkened. Yes, Piccola. I am. And one day you'll understand that. But he didn't pull away. Neither did I. We stood there in the garden surrounded by roses, the space between us charged with something dangerous and inevitable. I should go, I whispered. Yes, he agreed, but neither of us moved. I started seeing him regularly after that. Not dates exactly, more like summons. He would call and I would come, sometimes for dinner, sometimes just to sit with him while he worked, the silence between us comfortable and strange. Marina noticed I was disappearing more often, but she didn't push. The debt had vanished. Our landlord had suddenly stopped threatening eviction, and her art show had been featured in a magazine she'd never heard of. She knew someone was helping. She was smart enough not to ask who. Just be careful, she told me one night. Whoever this is, people like that don't do favors for free. I know, I said, but I was already in too deep to care. 3 weeks after that first dinner, everything changed. I arrived at his house to find him standing in his office, tension radiating from every line of his body. Papers were scattered across his desk, and a phone lay face down like he'd thrown it. What's wrong? I asked. He turned, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Fear. Not for himself. For me. You need to leave, he said. What? Why? Why, there's been a complication. A rival family knows about you. My blood went cold. Knows what about me? That you matter to me. He moved toward me, his hands gripping my shoulders. Emma, listen carefully. I'm going to have men watching you at all times. You don't go anywhere alone. You don't talk to anyone I haven't cleared. Do you understand? You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. His fingers tightened. These people will hurt you to get to me. They'll use you as leverage or worse. Then why keep me around? My voice broke. If I'm such a liability, just because I can't let you go. The words tore out of him, raw and furious. Do you think I haven't tried? Do you think I haven't spent every night telling myself to cut you loose before this exact thing happened? Then why didn't you? His forehead pressed against mine, his breathing ragged. Because you're the only good thing in my life, he whispered, and I'm selfish enough to keep you anyway. My hands came up to grip his shirt, holding on like he was the only solid thing in the world. I'm scared, I admitted. I know, but I promise you, Piccola, I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone touch you. And I believed him. That night, he insisted I stay at his house. Just until we secure things, he said. A few days. I should have refused. Should have insisted on going home. But I didn't. He gave me a bedroom on the 2nd floor. Beautiful and impersonal. Like a luxury hotel. But I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. Around midnight, I gave up and wandered downstairs. I found him in his study, still dressed, still working. He looked up when I appeared in the doorway. Can't sleep, he asked. I shook my head. He stood and crossed to me, studying my face in the dim light. You're safe here, he said quietly. I have men on every entrance, security systems that would make the CIA jealous. Nothing can get to you. It's not that. Then what? I looked up at him, this dangerous man who'd somehow become my shelter, and told the truth. I'm not used to being protected. I'm always the one taking care of everyone else. And now someone is taking care of you. His hand came up to cup my face. Does that frighten you? Yes. Why? Because I could get used to it, I whispered. And then what happens when you decide I'm not worth the trouble anymore? His eyes darkened with something fierce and possessive. That will never happen. You can't promise that. Yes, Emma, I can. He stepped closer, and I could feel the heat of him, the controlled power. You think I don't know what this is, what you've become to me? What have I become? Everything, he said simply, and then he kissed me. It wasn't rough or demanding like I'd expected. It was gentle, careful, like I was something precious he was afraid to break. I made a small sound in my throat and he pulled back immediately, searching my face. Tell me to stop, he said hoarsely, but I didn't want him to stop. I was terrified and overwhelmed and completely out of my depth, but I didn't want him to stop. So instead of answering, I reached up and pulled him back down. This kiss was different, deeper. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back, and I felt the control slipping between us. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Emma, he said, my name a warning and a prayer. Don't send me away, I whispered. I should, but you won't. His jaw clenched. No, God help us both, but no. He took my hand and led me upstairs, but not to my room, to his. His bedroom was dark and masculine, all rich fabrics and clean lines. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the grounds, and I could see the shapes of his security team moving like ghosts in the darkness. He let go of my hand and moved to close the curtains, shutting out the world. When he turned back to me, I saw the question in his eyes. I answered it by stepping closer. Emma. My name again, strained. If we do this, I know, I said softly. You have no idea what this means, what I'll expect. Then tell me. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hands framing my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Once I have you, he said, his voice low and dangerous, I won't let go. I won't be civilized about it. I won't share. I won't be patient if someone threatens you. Do you understand what I'm saying? I should have been terrified. Maybe I was, but I was also drawn to the intensity in his eyes, the absolute certainty that he would protect me no matter the cost. Yes, I whispered. He searched my face for a long moment, then kissed me again. This time there was no gentleness. This time he kissed me like he'd been holding back for weeks and finally couldn't anymore. I gasped against his mouth and his hands tightened on me, pulling me closer. I could feel the heat of him through my clothes, the barely controlled strength in his body. Tell me if you want to stop, he murmured against my throat. Anytime, for any reason. I nodded, incapable of words. His hands moved to the hem of my shirt and paused. Can I? Yes. He pulled it off slowly, his eyes tracking over my skin like he was memorizing every inch. His fingers traced along my collarbone, down my arms, and I shivered. Cold? He asked. No. Scared? I hesitated. A little. Good. He kissed my shoulder, my neck. Fear keeps you honest. His shirt came off next, and I couldn't help staring. I'd known he was strong, but seeing it was different. Muscle and scars and controlled power. You can touch me, he said, amusement in his voice. I reached out hesitantly, my fingers tracing over his chest, feeling his heartbeat. He caught my hand and brought it to his mouth, kissing my palm. You undo me, Piccola, he murmured, completely. Then he lifted me like I weighed nothing and laid me on the bed. What happened next was slow, careful, overwhelming. He took his time, learning every response, every sound I made. And when I tensed or pulled back, he stopped immediately, giving me time to adjust. Look at me, he said at one point. When I closed my eyes against the intensity, I want to see you. So I looked at him, this dangerous, powerful man, and let myself fall. Afterward, I lay against his chest, his arm wrapped around me, both of us breathing hard. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. His hand stroked through my hair, gentle and soothing. You're shaking. I'm okay. I trailed off, not knowing how to explain the tangle of emotions. Overwhelmed? Yes. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Sleep, Piccola, I have you. And despite everything, the danger, the fear, the complete insanity of falling for a mafia boss, I felt safe. For the first time in my life, I felt completely safe. I woke to shouting. For a moment, I was disoriented, unfamiliar room, unfamiliar bed. Then I remembered. Moretti. But he wasn't beside me. The bed was empty, and the shouting was coming from downstairs. I grabbed his shirt from the floor and pulled it on, then crept to the door. Don't care what he wants. Moretti's voice sharp with fury. You tell Volkov if he comes near her, I'll personally. Another voice, calmer but urgent. He's threatening to go public, expose everything. Let him try. Boss, if he does that, I said let him try. Something crashed. She's off limits, spread the word. Anyone who touches her answers to me personally. Silence. Get out. Footsteps retreated and I heard a door slam. I stood frozen in the doorway, my heart pounding. This was real. The danger wasn't abstract anymore. People were threatening me because of him, and he was willing to go to war over it. The door opened and Moretti appeared, stopping when he saw me. You heard, he said flatly. I nodded. He ran a hand through his hair, the first time I'd ever seen him look anything less than perfectly composed. Emma? What's happening? Nothing you need to worry about. Don't. I stepped toward him. Don't shut me out. Not now. He looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. Dmitry Volkov. He's head of the Russian syndicate. We've been negotiating territory for months. He sees my feelings for you as weakness. His jaw clenched. He's wrong. What if he's right? I whispered. He's not. But I am a weakness, aren't I? That's what you said. I make you vulnerable. No. He crossed to me and gripped my shoulders. You make me strong. You give me something worth protecting, something worth fighting for. I don't want you to fight for me. Too late, Piccola. His thumb brushed across my cheek. You're mine now. And I protect what's mine. There it was, the first time he'd said it directly. You're mine. I should have bristled, should have argued. Instead, I leaned into his touch. What happens now? I asked. Now? His expression hardened. Now we end this. He tried to keep me away from it, insisted I stay at the house with guards while he handled things. But I wasn't built to sit idle while someone I cared about walked into danger. So when his second-in-command arrived that afternoon, I cornered him. Where is he really going tonight? I demanded. Marco, a stocky man with kind eyes that didn't match his profession. Hesitated. I can't tell you that. Is it dangerous? Everything the boss does is dangerous. Marco, please. He sighed. There's a meeting. Neutral ground. Volkov wants to talk terms. You mean a trap? Possibly, but the boss doesn't have a choice. If he doesn't show, Volkov will see it as weakness. Then I'm coming. Absolutely not. I'm not asking permission. Miss Hartley, he's doing this because of me, isn't he? This whole war started because Volkov thinks I make him vulnerable. Marco didn't answer, which was answer enough. Then I'm coming, I said firmly. If I'm the problem, I should be part of the solution. The meeting was set at an abandoned warehouse near the docks, because of course it was. Moretti's face went absolutely white when he saw me climb out of Marco's car. What the hell is she doing here? He snarled. She insisted, Marco said weakly. Moretti crossed to me in 3 strides, fury radiating from every line of his body. I told you to stay at the house. And I didn't listen. I lifted my chin. You can be angry later. Right now we have bigger problems. Emma, I'm not a child and I'm not helpless. If this meeting is about me, I deserve to be here. For a moment, I thought he might physically throw me back in the car. Then his expression shifted into something cold and controlled. Stay behind me, he said. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And if shooting starts, you run. Understood? I nodded. He turned to his men. Positions. Inside the warehouse, Volkov waited with a dozen armed men. He was older than I expected, 50s, gray at the temples, expensive suit. He looked like someone's distinguished uncle, not a crime lord, until you saw his eyes. Moretti, he said pleasantly, you brought a guest. She insisted, Moretti said, his voice flat. How romantic. Volkov's gaze moved to me, assessing. So this is the girl causing all the trouble. She's causing nothing. You're the one making threats, because you've grown soft. Volkov stepped closer. The old Dante Moretti would never have let a woman compromise his position. Dante. I'd never heard his first name before. My position is stronger than ever, Moretti said coldly. Is it? Because from where I stand, you've given me perfect leverage. Volkov smiled. How much is she worth to you, I wonder? Territory, money, your life? The warehouse went very still. She's worth, Moretti said quietly, whatever it costs. But if you think that makes me weak, you're welcome to test that theory. Volkov studied him for a long moment, then laughed. You really care about her? How unexpected. What do you want, Dmitri? The Eastern Docks uncontested. No, then we have a problem. We have a problem anyway, Moretti said. You threatened what's mine. That requires a response. Does it? Even if it starts a war? Especially then. The tension ratcheted up impossibly higher. I could feel the men on both sides readying for violence. And then I did something incredibly stupid. I stepped forward. Wait, I said. Every gun in the room turned toward me. Emma, get back, Moretti started. No. I looked at Volkov. You want to know if I make him weak? You want to see if he'll choose me over power? Emma, don't. Ask me to leave, I said to Moretti. Right now. Choose the docks and your territory over me, and this ends. He stared at me, something raw and furious in his eyes. No, he said. Dante, I said no. He turned to Volkov. She stays. The docks stay. If you want war, you can have it. But you won't win, and you know it. Volkov looked between us, then smiled slowly. Interesting, he murmured. You really would burn it all down for her. Without hesitation. Then perhaps, Volkov tilted his head, we can negotiate after all. 2 hours later, it was done. Volkov got a smaller section of territory, some shipping contracts, and a guarantee of non-interference in his northern operations. Moretti kept the docks and me. It wasn't perfect, but it was peace, for now. On the drive back, Moretti was silent, his jaw tight, his hands clenched. When we reached the house, he dismissed everyone and turned to me. Never, he said, his voice shaking with rage and fear. Do something like that again. I was trying to help. You nearly got yourself killed. If Volkov had wanted to make a point, you were standing right there, but he didn't. That's not the point. He grabbed my arms, his grip almost painful. You don't understand what these people are capable of, what they would have done to you. I understand perfectly. I met his eyes. I understand that you were willing to start a war for me, that you put me above everything else, and I couldn't let you do that. It's not your choice to make. Yes, it is. If we're doing this, if I'm really yours like you keep saying, then my choices matter too. He stared at me, breathing hard, then suddenly pulled me against him. Terrify me, he whispered into my hair. I have faced down armed men without flinching, but the thought of losing you makes me weak. I wrapped my arms around him. You won't lose me. You can't promise that. Neither can you. But we're here anyway. He pulled back enough to look at me, his expression raw. I love you, he said. I didn't mean to. I tried not to, but I do. My breath caught. You don't have to say it back, he continued. I know this is insane and dangerous, and I love you too, I interrupted. He went very still. You do? Yes, even though you're bossy and controlling and scare the hell out of me sometimes. Piccola. I kissed him, and he kissed me back desperately, like I was oxygen and he was drowning. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. You're mine, he said softly. Yes, I agreed. And this time, I meant it with everything I had. Life didn't return to normal. How could it, when normal had never included falling in love with the mafia boss? I moved into Moretti's house officially, not because he demanded it, but because going back to the apartment felt impossible. Marina understood, or at least pretended to. Her debt was forgiven completely, and Dante, I could think of him by his first name now, set her up with gallery connections that would have taken her years to make on her own. Your boyfriend is terrifying, she told me over coffee one afternoon. But he's good to you. He is, I agreed. Are you happy? I thought about it, about the armed guards and the late-night phone calls in Italian and the way Dante sometimes woke from nightmares he wouldn't discuss. Yes, I said, I really am. But peace was fragile. 2 weeks after the meeting with Volkov, Dante came home covered in blood. I was in the garden when I heard the commotion, shouting, car doors slamming, Marco's voice urgent and frightened. I ran inside to find Dante leaning heavily on Marco's shoulder, his shirt soaked red. Oh my God, I'm fine, Dante said, though his face was pale. You're bleeding. Flesh wound. Marco, get the doctor. Already called, Marco said grimly. They got him upstairs to the bedroom and I followed, my hands shaking. What happened? I demanded. One of Volkov's lieutenants decided the treaty wasn't good enough, Marco explained. Ambushed the boss at a restaurant. Is Volkov dead? Dante said flatly. The lieutenant too. This is over. The doctor arrived and ushered everyone out except me. I held Dante's hand while he stitched the knife wound in his side. And I didn't look away even when I wanted to. When it was done and we were alone, Dante pulled me down to sit beside him. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For bringing you into this. You deserve better than don't. I touched his face gently. Don't apologize for being who you are. I chose this. I choose you. Even covered in blood? Even then. He kissed me softly, carefully. Ti amo, piccola, he murmured. I didn't know Italian, but I understood anyway. I love you too. The next morning, I found him in his office, on the phone with someone in rapid Italian. He saw me and motioned me closer, pulling me into his lap while he continued the conversation. I nestled against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, and realized something. This was my life now. Beautiful and dangerous and completely mine. And I wouldn't change it for anything. 6 months later, I stood in Dante's garden, surrounded by white roses, and realized how much had changed. The flower shop was still mine, but now I had employees instead of working every shift myself. Marina's art career had taken off completely, legitimately, though I suspected Dante had his fingers in more than a few of the opportunities that came her way, and I'd learned to navigate the strange world of loving a man who controlled half the city from the shadows. It wasn't easy. There were still late nights when he came home smelling like smoke and wouldn't tell me where he'd been. Still mornings when I woke to find him standing at the window, tension in every line of his body, fighting battles I couldn't see. But there were also quiet evenings in the garden, his head in my lap while I read aloud. Lazy Sunday mornings when he made me breakfast and we ate in comfortable silence. Moments when he looked at me like I was the only real thing in his world. What are you thinking about? He asked, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. How strange this all is, I admitted. 6 months ago, I didn't even know you existed. Now I can't imagine life without you. Regrets? None. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Liar. I saw you last week when those men came to the door. He was right. A rival family had sent messengers, thinly veiled threats dressed up as business proposals. I'd watched Dante handle it with cold efficiency, and for just a moment, I'd glimpsed the true darkness underneath. "I'm not afraid of you," I said quietly. "You should be, at least a little." I turned in his arms to face him. "Why?" "Because I would do terrible things to keep you safe, Piccola. Things that would horrify you if you knew the details. I know what you are, Dante. Do you?" His eyes were serious, searching. "Do you understand that men have died because they looked at you wrong? That I've ordered things done in your name that would give you nightmares?" "I know," I said, "and I know that's supposed to scare me, but it doesn't. Should it?" He cupped my face in his hands. "I don't know anymore. You've changed me, made me softer in ways that are dangerous. You're not soft. With you, I am." He kissed me gently. "Only with you." That night, he took me to the restaurant where we'd had our first real meal together. Stella Note was closed to the public, lit only by candles, intimate and perfect. "What's the occasion?" I asked as we sat at the same table as before. "Does there need to be one? With you?" "Usually." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile I'd learned to treasure. "I wanted to remind us both of where this started, when you were terrified but came anyway, when I knew I should let you go but couldn't. I wasn't that terrified. You were shaking." "Okay, I was terrified." We ate slowly, talking about nothing and everything. He told me about his childhood in Sicily, before his family moved to America and he inherited an empire he'd never asked for. I told him about my parents, dead for 5 years now, and how I still sometimes forgot they were gone. "You would have liked them," I said. "My dad would have hated you at first, but Mom would have won him over." "Would she have approved?" "I think so. She always said I needed someone who would challenge me." "Have I challenged you?" I laughed. "Every single day." After dinner, we walked in the garden behind the restaurant, a small space, with a fountain and climbing roses. Dante stopped beside the fountain and turned to face me. "Emma," he said, and something in his tone made my heart skip. "Yes?" "I told you once that if anyone was going to ruin you, it would be me." "I remember. I was wrong." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "You've ruined me, Piccola, completely and irreversibly."
You are the love of my life.
My
Will you
breath
marry
caught.
me?
Oh,
"I
my
can't promise
goodness,
you a
yes.
normal life,"
Yes,
he continued.
I will marry you.
"I can't promise there won't be danger or darkness. I can't even promise I'll always be the man you deserve, Dante, but I can promise that you'll always be mine and I'll always be yours. That I'll protect you with everything I have. That I'll love you until my last breath and probably beyond." He opened the box, revealing a ring, simple, elegant, with a single diamond that caught the light. "Marry me," he said. "Be mine completely. Say yes and accept this life, this darkness, this love." I should have hesitated, should have thought about what saying yes really meant, the danger, the secrets, the blood that would always be part of our story. But I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said. His expression transformed relief and joy and something fierce and possessive all at once. He slid the ring onto my finger, then pulled me into his arms and kissed me like he'd never let go. And maybe he wouldn't. Maybe this was forever dangerous and imperfect and absolutely real. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "Mia Mowgli," he murmured. "My wife. Not yet. Soon enough." His arms tightened around me. "And then nothing will ever take you from me." It should have sounded threatening. Instead, it sounded like a promise. We drove home in comfortable silence, his hand holding mine over the center console. When we pulled up to the house, I noticed extra security. More men patrolling, additional cameras. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing's wrong. I'm just making sure nothing ever will be." Inside, he led me upstairs to our bedroom and closed the door. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. "Once we're married, there's no going back. You'll be a Moretti. That comes with weight." "I know. People will target you, use you to get to me. You'll protect me,
It's
With my
perfect. I love you
life,
so
he said
much.
fiercely. But Emma, I need you to understand there will be blood. There will be choices you won't like. There will be nights when I come home and you'll see the monster instead of the man. I stepped closer and took his face in my hands. I see both, I said. I've always seen both. And I choose you anyway, all of you. Something in his expression cracked, and he kissed me desperately. Ti amo, he breathed against my lips. More than anything, more than power or money or life itself. I love you too, my dangerous, impossible man. He lifted me easily, carrying me to the bed, and showed me exactly how much I meant to him. Later, as I lay against his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow, I thought about everything that had brought us here. A chance meeting at a party where I'd laughed at a man I didn't know, a warning I hadn't understood, a slow fall into dangerous love. Dante? I murmured. What does piccola mean? He was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns on my skin. Little one, he said finally. Small, precious thing. That's what I am to you? You're everything to me. He pressed a kiss to my hair. But yes, my piccola, my small, fierce, impossible girl who looked at a monster and smiled. You're not a monster. I am, he said quietly. But for you, I'll try to be a man. I held him tighter, and in the darkness of his room, surrounded by his world of danger and power, I felt completely safe. Because he was mine, and I was his. And in the end, that was enough. Outside, the city sprawled in all its dark beauty. Somewhere, enemies were plotting. Somewhere, danger was waiting. But in this moment, in this bed, we were untouchable. Two people who shouldn't have found each other but did anyway. And no matter what came next, blood or violence or the weight of the crown he wore, we would face it together. Because some loves are worth the darkness, and ours was one of them.